Hi, this is Carrie Margaret with Create Love, and I wanted to share with you 5 things that I've learned since starting this project of Create Love, the YouTube channel and podcast. There are many others, but these are what I wanted to share with you today in review of the project. So, number 1 thing that I've learned has been continually reinforced is men have this intuitive desire to be protective and protectors, and are incredible protectors. They will protect in all different ways. I even had a fun viewer make a comment on a video of mine saying that I was too nice, that I get to let people sit with the consequences of their feelings longer. And this comment from this engaged viewer was a perfect example of how men love to protect. In that moment, he was looking to protect me even from a quality within myself. And I've noticed that so much with my male friends, with men all around me, is, men will want to protect you even from qualities within yourself. Also, lots of men will want to protect you from other men. Men can be very good at kind of sniffing out alternative motives, or if somebody doesn't feel like they're really in integrity with themselves or with you, or anything else, like who is it? I think it's Alison Armstrong that says that that sheepdogs are the best at sniffing out wolves. And I've noticed that my all different male companions, friends, are really good at sniffing out other men. And so the men in my life, and then men that I've interviewed, I've noticed are really good at protecting, related to other men, related to even like decisions and choices. I'm purposely not editing any of my content right now in terms of putting my voice out there, because I get to get over perfection and just show up to you as a new creator on YouTube. And I also have a nose band-aid because I have a scratch on my nose. So another way that I'm showing up perfectly imperfect. Yes. So I just continue to notice how men love to protect women around them in their lives, especially women that are important to and they are committed to. And men love commitment. Love commitment. There's this false narrative going around that like men don't love to commit in the dating world, or that it's so hard to find a man that wants to commit. And I actually find that happy men tend to be very committed, and they really like to commit to women around them. And that can be, in friendship, it can be in relationship, it can be in all different ways. And that might be a separate video about commitment. We get to be discerning in terms of who we decide to commit to make sure that it is aligned for both people. And there are so many great men that are committing, that want to commit, that want partnership, that commit to the women in their lives in all different ways. I have so many beautiful male friends. I have amazing brothers. I just have all these amazing men in my life that are so committed to me and show up to me all the time as a demonstration of their commitments. Because men really love to commit to feminine energy, to women, and especially to women that appreciate them. That is another piece in commitment with men. The next thing that I had that I've learned, that's really been reinforced in this whole project, is how much erotic energy is nourishment for men. In the interviews that I've published, and then behind, one of the things that I get to change is I talk to so many people and this research project, and I get to record more of those interviews and share more of them with you. And in all of my research related to this and talking to lots and lots of people, reading all different books, investigating all different places, and really understanding the dynamic between men and women, and the male perspective and more of the female perspective beyond just my own, right? I have really come to see how much erotic energy is nourishment, and that loyal men look for that nourishment within their primary monogamous relationship. And it's almost like this cultural thing that's being taught that, like, oh, men only want sex, and like making that wrong. And actually it's this erotic, beautiful sexual energy that is incredibly nourishing for men. And when they don't have that experience in their life with an incredible woman that they are connected to or committed to, or in romantic relationship with, and also there's the polyamorous community. There are people that are that mate in different ways. I am monogamously inclined, but there are also different ways of mating as human beings. And anyways, the men, when men aren't finding that sense of erotic energy, they frequently are going to look for what, like pseudo eros. They're going to look for pseudo erotic experiences in porn, in OnlyFans, in strippers, and all of this. And that's not to say that's a huge thing that I just put out there. So there are other circumstances when men will look for that, but in general, this like overarching huge amounts of industry has to do with this primal desire and urge to connect sexually and for erotic energy. And Mark Gaffney says in his amazing book, Return to Eros, when people aren't finding that sense of erotic connection, they are going to go to the pseudo-erotic. So they are going to go to another space to find that erotic energy on things like porn, generally OnlyFans, or strippers. They're not nourishing in the way that, just like the way that fast food isn't generally going to be super nourishing, like a gourmet Michelin star kind of farm to table meal will be. The pseudo-erotic experience in general is just not going to be as nourishing as a beautiful erotic experience with a woman of significance to a man. And in Create Love, one of the things that I could do with the channel is make sexual a little bit less controversial, a little bit more respectful, a little bit more respected, and for people to understand how huge this nourishment is for men. I'm not saying it's not for women. So this is not men against women. It is nourishing for women as well. It is just very nourishing for men. The next thing, number 3, is emotional energy and connection is extremely nourishing to women. So, there are so many men that are amazing at connecting to their partners emotionally. I happen to know a lot of those men and be around a lot of those men. Some of those men are my family and I grew up with them. So some of those men are friends. I have tons of friends that are men that are in healthy romantic partnership with, that I have healthy male-female friendships with. I actually grew up as well all around couples. I grew up in a community of a lot of families and couples. It wasn't like a conscious community or commune or anything. It was just like a community that was intentionally created by my parents to, raise their kids with other families. And I grew up around a lot of really healthy families and partnerships where everybody was friends with each other. Healthy friendships between men and women who weren't romantic. So this whole discussion of whether or not women and men can be friends has always been a little bit weird for me, because the majority of relationships that I grew up around, they modeled a lot of healthy relationships between men and women who weren't in partnership, like friendships. I'm not talking about sexual relationships, friendships. And I grew up around a lot of long-term marriages. Most of the people that I grew up around are still married today that I've known ever since childhood. So that is something that very fortunately I got to experience as a norm. So this emotional energy being nourishment and important to women is, is something that I think for women, so many women like think of it as like a no-brainer, in the way that like men might think of like, erotic energy being nourishing, or like that sexual energy being nourishing as like a no-brainer. And like for women, like it almost feels like a silly thing to say. And a lot of times when there's disconnection in relationships with women, that it's like the emotional disconnection happens first, and then the other levels of disconnection happen after that. So one really amazing way to get better at connecting with women, if you didn't happen to have sisters or grow up with female friends, is to make friends with amazing women. Where there are so many amazing women out there in the world, and there is a lot of teaching around the dangers of being friend zoned, which I find to be very strange teaching as well, because I have dated people in the past that have been friends first. It's a kind of a logical thing where you can develop a friendship and then develop, chemistry over that, where actually this is very logical for women, maybe not so much for men, but for women, it's very logical that you can develop, an interest based on friendship first, because you develop that emotional connection. Back to the emotional connection. You develop that emotional connection, and that can allow a woman to feel more of that spark. So the whole thing about like friend zoning being problematic, all of this stuff in like sort of modern dating terminology, not so much relationship terminology, but dating terminology, I have frequently found tremendously puzzling, because even, when I traveled around the world, it was very common in many cultures for men and women to be friends, and then for relationships or dating, all of that stuff to come out of that. So one of the things about men that are around more women and is that they are going to develop more of that sensitivity to a woman's emotions. I was just talking to a very good friend of mine who had told me that a beautiful thing. He said that when he met his current partner, he really thanked me for the role that I played in his life of being able to call in such an amazing woman, because it was our relationship and our friendship that he felt was one of the main things that allowed him to call into this I don't like to use the word level because it's a comparison thing, but this like incredible woman into his life. And so, this whole fear of being friends with women, I think, is a little bit misguiding. Like a lot of there's good and bad advice all over the place, but sometimes modern dating advice it's actually coming from a place of like, not coming from a place of like super healthy role models in terms of men or women for that matter. But anyways, yes, making friends with incredible women. And guess what? Incredible women tend to know other incredible women. Look at that. So you can even meet a partner through your female friends. And who better to meet a partner through than through a female friend? Because she will have a level of discernment about the woman that you're meeting as well. All right. Number 4, there are so many good people out there. There are so many in the online world. There's all this talk about, you know, the high value woman and the high quality man and how many there are like each of these and how you look out for them and how you become them and like all of this stuff and how you signal all of these things, which is, you know, there's a level of beauty in that like personal betterment and the talk, and there's like a level of truth in like being a high value person is very desirable. Being a high quality person is very desirable. Everybody has worth equally. Everybody in the entire world is born worthy. And there, in terms of mating and relationships, there is a lot of benefit both to becoming a high value or a high quality partner yourself, and then partnering with a high quality or a high value person yourself. Especially like my the viewer who left me the comment earlier today about a past video, especially in qualities like kindness, compassion, empathy, when those move back both ways and not just unidirectionally, but both ways, that can really create amazing things in terms of partnership. So there's a lot to be said for growth and wanting to be high value, wanting to be high quality, all of those things. And there are a lot of those people out there, and it is not necessarily easier for the high quality, high value men and women. There was Matthew McConaughey, in his Green Lights project that he did with Tony Robbins earlier this year, talked about the process of, in an interview that I listened to, talked about the process of meeting his wife, and how right before he met his wife, he just like came to peace with that, like he might not meet her, and that just coming into peace with himself and releasing any kind of anxiety about like meeting her, the mother of his children, and completely surrendering to like being okay with him and not like looking for her everywhere he went, essentially, like getting rid of that energy. We're talking about like Matthew McConaughey is, if you look at the superficial things in terms of somebody who's going to have a lot of options, right when he met his wife, he would have a lot of options. I think he was like at the height of being a film star, and beyond being a film star, he's very talented. It's not that he's just well-known for the sake of being well-known. He's talented and has worked on his craft and is somebody who, is multidimensional, a perfect example of somebody who is, a high quality man with tons of options and things not necessarily being easy for him. Lewis Howes, who has the School of Greatness podcast that he has been doing for the past 10 years. That's called the School of Greatness. And like the level that he produces, like he started that podcast, I think he started putting out 3 interviews a week from the beginning. And his first interview, I can't remember who it was with right now, but like his first interview was a really stellar interview that he put out there, and like such a consistent person in terms of delivering value, an achiever, and working on himself and working on self-growth. And he has been tremendously transparent about his journey in relationships and like his journey within healing himself so that he could call in the level of partnership that he just did with the woman that he got engaged to. So this is somebody who's like, developed himself to internally developing himself to externally developing himself, like objectively, like in the world of creators, like putting out right away a YouTube channel where you're publishing 3 high quality videos a week is a level of resourcefulness and ability and team and all of those things put together right away. So, like I'm sure that he had plenty of options in terms of all of this. And, he really talked about that whole journey of becoming that person that could call in this partnership that he is in now, and also did a huge series. That's a podcast that I've been listening to off and on for quite a while. I love long form interviews and really enjoy his enthusiastic style of interviewing. There's just a lot of resonance in that, so I listened to a lot of his interviews about relationships, and he was on that whole process of discovery of relationships before he called in the partner. Another example, there's like so many examples. Of course, I just thought of 2 male examples right there, but there's so many examples like with women as well, and I know so many high value women that have gone through different things in terms of their own process, their own self work, and in terms of being the person, healing the different parts to call in the level of partnership that they want to call in. And I've definitely found in my journey that it's been so interesting. I'm still deciding how much I want to share about individual partnership or dating experiences, mostly for the experiences of, because they're not my stories only to share. And I get to share everything about me, but they're not my stories to share. So, but I've had tons of lovely like first dates, and I've had, much longer term marriage, and then experiences with like shorter, relationships, and experiences with men, and learning and growth. And yeah, I mean, I've gotten to continually grow into being the version of me that creates the partnership that is the most supportive and delicious and sexy partnership. So that's what I will say about that for now. And number 5 is be mindful of what you practice. So in my interviews, in my observations, in my own life, and all of this, I have seen, noticed, been witness to, had lots of interviews with talked to a lot of people, and what people practice, they get good at. So whatever we are practicing, is going to be the thing that we're effective at practicing at. I think I said the same thing 3 times, but I'm also not going to edit that. The issue with that, I think, right now is like the thing that we get to do is we get to think about like, what is a version of me that I want to practice being? And with the whole kind of like online dating world, and then there is the casual sex world. I'm not a casual sex woman. It's in the sense that it's not something that's nourishing or interesting to me. So I don't engage much in that, but I do talk to people that engage a lot more. So I have observations that are from other people, and then observations and what happens in relationships related to that. And then in sexuality, in terms of how people practice different things in sexuality. So the thing about like, if we practice that in online dating, for example, that there's all these options, so we just don't really treat any options with like appreciation or respect or interest or all of those things, then that's what we are practicing. That's what we're creating as we go to create what might be the beginning of a meaningful connection with somebody, the beginning of a relationship or a life partner. Annie Lala is is a beautiful woman in the love space, and she has this thing that she says that, like, you want to treat each person that comes into your life like they are the one, because one of them will be. So this isn't overly, putting somebody up on a pedestal. I have done that before, not that effective for either me or the other person. People have put me up on pedestals, not that effective for me or the other person in terms of connecting. This isn't about putting somebody up on a pedestal. This is more about genuinely being in curiosity and being connection and being in interest about your connection, and treating that person with the level of interest and connection that you would with, and respect, if they were the one. If one is practicing that all the time, then you can imagine with the one that is going to be a lot easier. You're going to create things from that base. For the people that are practicing, sometimes there's an exploratory phase, and in terms of casual sex. But if people are just really practicing casual sex all the time, what they frequently are practicing is how to be disconnected from their own hearts and feelings as they're involved in sex. I've yet to find, well, I don't know if that's true. I do have a friend who's a dating coach who's been intimate with probably hundreds of women. He's more casual in his connections in terms of that, and he doesn't reflect what I'm just about to say, but he is the exception to the rule. Pretty much everybody else, other dating coaches another male dating coach that I know that was with, hundreds of sexual partners, said that what he got really good at was practicing more disconnected sex, and then he had to learn how to practice how to be more connected to his heart again. That after a certain amount of exploration, he was actually moving into the negative and becoming less connected and less likely to bring in the partnership. That he actually has now a beautiful partnership with a woman, and he says that nothing could really compare to that level of connection, any of these casual dating experiences that he went through in the early phase of him. But while he was in the exploratory phase, that's where he was. So, I just find reflected again and again and again when I talk to different people, or read stories of people. There's a woman who was previously like polyamorous sex addict, and then just talked about how she was always looking for herself and other people, and finally in like coming home to herself, she was able to connect to herself and then with her partner more. In general, so again, I'm not making casual sex wrong. I'm just saying that in general, what I tend to notice is that when people engage in a lot of casual sex, what they actually are doing is engaging in sex that is disconnected from themselves and from their hearts. And it can tend to be, there's the initial like exploration where I think men more than women, but people might be excited about exploring this, and then there tends to be kind of this decline in connection, and then you're practicing disconnection. And the similar thing to, like certain levels of erotic stimulation, if you're like practicing your eroticism with like really graphic porn, those people then tend to have a harder time connecting to eroticism that is different than that. So it's very useful to be mindful what we're practicing. And I have noticed that the people that tend to have longer, romantic, erotically charged marriages with beautiful sexual connections look for each other for that healthy erotic connection. So there you go, 5 things I've discovered in this first year in Create Love. Thank you so much for being with me here, and I look forward to many episodes in the future, and learning with you and exploring with you and being honest about my whole part of the journey, and helping you in yours.